During the installation of ISA Server 2006, you have relatively few options as how you actually intend to run your ISA server. That's because most installation routines these days just get you so that you get the product up and running in a basic configuration. Once you take care of that, then you can utilize the server and configure it the way you need it using the management tools. That way they don't have to try to predict everything during the setup program. Well, the key place where you'll set up the configuration of your ISA server will be in the ISA server management, and then the specifics about how you want to run it will be found under the configuration branch on the left side of the screen. So, if you open up ISA management, you'll find the ISA server management at the top of the list. You'll find your server listed, or servers if you've installed more than one, and then configuration will have you define what networks and what your actual network layout is and how you intend to use the ISA server. And if we click on that, what you actually see is they've got a whole bunch of templates here to help you build it the way you want it. Whether you're planning on just having it be the buffer between your internal and your external network, or whether you plan on having it be part of a three-leg perimeter network where you've got area where you have your web servers hosted, and then you have another area where your clients are, and then you have the internet there, or whether you intend to utilize two ISA servers, sort of one as an outer boundary and one as an inner boundary, so a front firewall and a back firewall. And then they've got one where it's a single network adapter, so where ISA is basically sitting inside your network for web proxying and caching, configurations like that. We'll be looking at those in more detail in specific videos, but this is just where you would go and apply the one that fits your needs. Chances are if you're just introducing one ISA server into your network, the Edge firewall is probably one of the configurations you'll be using. Now, continuing onward, over here under the cache, this is where you'd set up how much web space you're going to how much hard drive space you're going to allocate to caching. Now, this isn't a major issue if you're using ISA to protect something like your Exchange server or handle incoming SMTP messages, because those are coming from the outside world hitting your server and they're probably unique. Where this really comes in is if you're using ISA for your internal clients to connect out via. So that way when a user goes to a particular website, the information that user gets is cached on the ISA server. And that way it takes less time for them to go and get it, and also saves on your bandwidth. Now, the next tab is the next option is add-ins, and this is where we see the list of the application filters and web filters that Microsoft makes available as part of ISA Server. Now, this is also if you installed any third-party products for ISA, they would tend to show up, whether they be an application specific, dealing with like DNS filtering and FTP filtering and SMTP, or whether they're web filters where they're talking about specific functions that might need to be performed, whether it be link translation, which is commonly used for things like Exchange and SharePoint, where the outside names you're using don't match the inside names, or whether they have to do with radius for authentication, whether they do with forms or web compression or things like that. This is where you'd go to do some tuning on that. And this is where updates to ISA or third-party add-ins to ISA will give some more functionality to you. And then there's the general option, and this is where you can basically do some of your overall configuration, setting up who can administer ISA. That way you're not all using the same administrator account, specifying what servers you connect to. If you have more than one ISA server, where you can basically leverage the cache on multiple ISA servers for that. Configure the firewall client settings. So if you decide to deploy out the ISA client to your individual desktop users, you can use this to control and manage that. You've got HTTP settings. So you've got link translations and certificate revocation, and so your SSL components and your ISA server computer details. And then you've got additional security policies where you can talk about or configure intrusion detection and DNS attacks, TCP packet flooding settings, and even some IP protection configuration. So this is where we go in to really fine-tune our ISA configuration based on the type of ISA design we're using, caching, our add-ins, and also the general components. And these will be discussed in more videos up here on the website.